My question to you this morning, to get you thinking like criminologists, how much crime is there in Northern Ireland? Maybe you know, maybe you don't. There is an exact answer, depending. But how many recorded crimes were there in Northern Ireland for the last financial year? Anybody? How many? 20,000? Actually, last year, as recorded by PSNI, there were 100,000 or so recorded crimes. But that 100,000 figure is only if you just accept PSNI at face value, because what we know from any of the crime surveys, some of the stuff we look at, there's anywhere between 50 and 100% more crime happening at any one time than ever is recorded by the police. Does anybody know how many people are in prison at this time in Northern Ireland? About 1,500. So if you're starting to question, well, why is there maybe 100,000 crimes? Why are there only 3,000 people sentenced? Why is the prison population only 1,500 at any one time, roughly? You're starting to think like criminologists. Defining crime in criminology. We spend an awful lot of our time looking at what we even understand, what we mean by crime, because when we actually look at it, crime changes over place and over time. I think a lot of us through media have very populist conception about what is right and what is wrong. Fast forward close to 60 years, something which was once deemed illegal in society is now heavily protected under the law. So crime changes over place and over time according to societal sentiment, politics, changing cultures. Health fashion, looking at some of the symptoms of why people use drugs in the first place and not and the causes. So attitudes to drugs are very, very significant, and they're a big marker about judicial and criminal justice attitudes, and again that changes over place and time. As criminologists, we spend an awful lot of our time understanding what it means to be a victim. Your needs, my needs, everybody's needs varies according to what has happened, severity, treatment, and how they should be treated within a criminal justice system. Why is it that particular groups over time are disproportionately impacted and affected and targets, for example, of police activity for reasons other than criminality? And prisons as well, treatment. I think we like to think prisons are the repository for the bad people in society. But if you're to look in, and as we do, looking at evidence, how should we treat people who have committed crime? What do they do when they come out of prison? What about the families? This idea that we're obsessed with individual criminal behaviours. In fact, what criminology is very much concerned with are the power dynamics within society, whether that happens to be large corporations, whether it happens to be in relation to environmental issues, the treatment of worker populations and the production, for example, of clothing, even politicians as well. Do they get away with things which perhaps the rest of the population might not? That's about crimes, if you like, of the powerful. So it's not all about individual crimes. There are many other dynamics there. We're after 25 years post-Good Friday Agreement. Have the conflict-related issues in Northern Ireland, somebody mentioned conflict, been fixed? To some extent, yes, but for lots of people in the population, no. Okay, the uneven spread of the peace process and how certain groups still have failed to reap the benefits of that. Never in human existence have we known more about the behaviours of human beings and be able to sort, categorise and look at that than we have ever had the capacity to do in all of humankind. So what do we do with that information? How do we use it appropriately, ethically? What about artificial intelligence? Can and where should that be used to control people and behaviour? We are all at Queen's, and certainly all the criminology team, we're all what is called research active. So not only do we engage in doing teaching like this similarly, but we're all engaged in our own research areas. And as you can see, I'm not going to go through all these, but we're a 10-strong team here, and we all have our own specialisms. As we are, in many cases, leaders in our field, we get to introduce that and we get to bring that knowledge and expertise to you as well. We also have a lot of connections. Many of us are associated not just in the day job but out in the voluntary community, NGO sector. Through our work we have links to the criminal justice system, and so we do tend to bring criminal justice professionals in, and they get to engage with you in the classroom, tell you how things work in the real world as well. As part of our criminology degree, these are many of the very, very important skills you need potentially out in the real world of work. The slightly glowing one in the middle for me is the most important product of the criminology degree here, critical thinking. As I said, we live in a world which is saturated in information, disinformation, misinformation. So having the skills, the capacity, the ability to synthesize that, work with that. A criminology degree, and I use the analogy as this, like a law degree. Only a fraction of people who do a law degree ever go on to be qualified lawyers or barristers, okay? We are a broad-based social science degree which opens the world into criminal justice system, voluntary and community sector, analytical sectors, and so on. And certainly a primary degree in criminology or BA in criminology is the first step on your journey into that wider world. So a very brief snapshot, some of the things we will discuss and you would look at as part of our criminology degree.